Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS in.form. We are very honored to have in the studio with us the state senator for this area, State Senator Mark Messmer. And Senator, welcome to the show. It's always good to have you coming in telling us what's happening in the legislation.
Yep. Well,
and this week, you said it was a busy week, but it didn't seem like there was a lot of hubbub about anything this week.
And that's probably good.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I said it's kind of nice after about 5 years in a row of just one revolt
Craziness,
after
yeah.
another to have a year where we're just getting the good stuff done and you know, not making anybody mad. That's not, you know, nothing wrong with that every once in a while. But it was a very busy week. Everybody, all committees in the House and Senate pretty much had their last hearings this week. A few committees will meet on Monday to wrap up odds and ends. Okay. But that's the last opportunity for any committee work is Monday. And I had I think 5 House bills heard in the Senate and a bunch of my Senate bills heard in the House, and so it was a very busy week
for you,
for me personally.
Okay.
And I had a bunch of good stuff get done. I've got one bill that's completely passed and signed. One of my Senate bills. The other ones all popped out of committee this week. A couple of them are ready for, I think even some of them passed early in the week that they're ready for final passage Monday. So a lot of moving parts this week, but a good week. Overall, we had 46 House bills clear the Senate. So we're well over 100 House bills that we've ran through. We'll probably have another 50 or 60 next week.
Wow.
That all processed through committee this week. So very, very busy week. One of the House bills that passed that I thought was one of the most interesting bills, actually authored by Democrat John Bartlett from Indianapolis, and it was tagged in the media, which do they ever get anything right?
We do, Mark, by the way.
We
We do.
But and I'll call it the Associated Press has a real problem with that. They tagged it, this is prayer in school bill. Well, really, it's more putting boundaries up, taking multiple, court cases, Supreme Court cases, across the country, and putting together what we call a religious freedom of expression bill for our public schools. And the biggest things about it allows students to express, and basically this is what the bill does, and I could go into lots of what it doesn't, but it allows kids to express religious viewpoints in their work and not be penalized for that. They have to just actually grade them on the content or the of what they're doing,
Okay.
without being scrutinized. It allows them to wear religious clothing or emblems, or use school meeting rooms to the extent that any other group or student or so if they don't allow any emblems on any clothes, that would be applied equally to everybody. But if you're allowed to wear a Colts football jersey or as long as it's done tastefully, but anything that expresses any view applies equally to religious expression. It requires Department of Education and the Attorney General's office to prepare model religious expression policy that any school can use, and that's basically what the bill does. And it does allow them time, if there's time in the day where they want to pray, or they're not coerced to pray, that would definitely but as long as it's student-led and it gives them the ability to pray, express religious clothing, use school rooms, but it requires schools to treat them equally, and that has happened where they have not been in Indiana schools. We've had some small examples of them not being allowed to use school meeting rooms for Bible studies where other groups can. If it's off school time, whatever, they've got freedom to use facilities just like any other student activity would. So passed the Senate this week 47-3. I think it passed the House 95-5. It was pretty solidly passed in the House and Senate, bipartisan authorship, bipartisan support, and now that'll go on to the governor for signature. Okay. So I thought that was a well put together bill. It just was tagged, wrong from the start. So, no surprise.
Gave a label.
That's right. Some of the bills that I had on final passage this week, I had House Bill 1200 that I worked on with Representative Arnold and Representative Bacon. Requires kids, if they ride an off-road vehicle, ATV, Gator, if they're under 18, they need to wear a helmet. They're currently required to wear a helmet if they ride a motorcycle and they're under 18. Over 18, do what you want. Under 18, you'll be required to wear a helmet. It doesn't apply if you're using that ATV or Gator, as part of agricultural work. We exempt out them from agricultural operations. So if you're out fixing a fence row, you don't have to take a helmet on and off. I mean, but now if you're out four-wheeling, through the woods on your agricultural property, you'd probably have to be a complaint-driven, issue to the DNR. But you'd still need to wear it if you're actually riding an ATV. As a ATV is fun to do,
right? And
you're under 18. So that passed the House 37-12 yesterday. And it passed. The lady who helped put that together was Ashley Brugenschmidt out of Boonville, and her daughter Kate was killed about 2 years ago at a friend's house when they were in between softball games on a Saturday. Jumped on a really big ATV, a big Razor, and just putzing through the yard, and it rolled over and rolled over on her head and killed her. Mm-hmm. And so Ashley's been very adamant about trying to get attention brought to this, and we passed the bill yesterday on what would have been Kate's 13th birthday. Oh. So,
I mean, a tragedy will lead to better lives for others.
Yeah, yes. It will. And people say, well, why do you need to infringe on people's freedom? Well, if you're an adult, we let you buy alcohol, smoke cigarettes. If you don't want to wear a motorcycle helmet, you don't have to. If you don't want to on an ATV, but we kind of treat our kids to a little different threshold than that. We don't let them buy booze, cigarettes, alcohol. We don't let them buy firearms. Under adult supervision, we give them a little more latitude, but we have infant car seats. We wear car seat belts because they're proven to save lives in an accident. And nobody likes to infringe on people's personal freedom, but with our kids, we kind of hold them to a little bit more precious of a standard.
Yeah, right.
So. Glad to see that one get through. A bill I worked on with Representative Braun was House Bill 1511, kind of just down in the weeds. It deals with cars that get towed or abandoned vehicles, and because the statutes were really messy. If it got towed away and put in a storage yard and waiting for the owner to come claim it, many times people have an old junker and they just pull off on the interstate and leave it and go. And they tow it away and put it in a storage yard. But how you notify the owners of a vehicle when it's been impounded, it's been parked illegally, or for whatever reason it's been sent to a tow yard, how to properly notify the owner, what notice requirements are made, what dollar threshold it can be just sold after, the proper waiting period, or when it has to be auctioned, and then how that public auction needs to be noted, notices put out, and then what to do with the proceeds. How much does the tow yard get? How much does the banks get? So okay. Just kind of down in the weeds, but a bill that was long overdue. The towing companies brought that in. The banks and the credit unions and towing companies worked together, came up with a good comprehensive update to that, and I think that one passed unanimously yesterday. So very good. House Bill 1100 that one of my friends from the House that I actually room with up there, Representative Lehman, wrote. It was from 1816 until 1978. There was every year, they didn't compile it every year, but they kept a history of they called it an oral history of the legislative body. And there's a history book put together that's got stories of good things and bad, that happen, with House and Senate members over the years. And they've continued to compile the information, but they've not actually, put it back into a book form. So the committee that kind of compiled, that pulls all that together, gets it printed. We're going to continue that again moving forward. So I think about 10 years ago they said, we've we're going to start going back and recapturing that, and now they'll recompile that history of the legislative body. So passed unanimously as well. House Bill 1520, that was a repeal of obsolete statutes that about 5 years ago we repealed inheritance tax. We stopped collecting the tax, but they left all the laws on the books. Kind of odd. So that repealed obsolete codes passed unanimously. So another one that I'm pleased to work with. And one that is really, it's called reporting of duplicative reports to the, right now, if I'm a small business owner or a local unit of government and I have to compile and submit, the same basic data to more than one agency, there's nobody keeping track of where those duplicate forms of the same info. We asked the Legislative Services, do they keep track of it? Nope. Does the Office of Managed Budget do it? Nope. Does the Indiana Economic Development Corporation do it? Nope. Nobody was ever keeping track of, because over time you pass a law, you pass a law, you pass a law, and sometimes the same information is required to be submitted to more than one state agency. So this would require the IEDC on their website under their small business section to have a place for small businesses, and in the state law that's any business under 150 employees or any local unit of government. If there's duplicate reporting requirements to more than one agency, they're going to create a portal to submit the information, and then every year the IEDC, Indiana Economic Development Corporation, they'll compile that list of duplicate reports and submit it to the House has a committee called the Government Reduction Committee. So each year they'll submit a report, say here's what we've identified, and then some suggestions on how to get it to where one agency or one place would be the reporting portal, and then they would split it, split that report.
Where it needs to go.
So one-stop shop.
Makes it easier for us in business.
Absolutely, absolutely. And probably some of the bigger items that we'll finish up next week on, passed out of committee this week. We had the road funding bill, which is House Bill 1002, the budget, House Bill 1001, and then the I-STEP replacement bill, which is House Bill 1003. Those all passed out of committee this week. There could easily be some changing on the road funding and budget, as we get through floor amending. So it'd probably wait till next week to talk about that one. But was pleased to see the I-STEP replacement bill move out of Education Committee this week. And it was a bill we had, I thought the last 2 years we've had a pretty well where we ended up, this year. But we passed it out of the Senate 2 years in a row, got to the House, and they killed it. So this year we let them start it, so they can't kill it.
So it comes to you. Well, unless you change it too much.
At this point, I don't think at all. So, I don't know that there was hardly any tweaking to it that wasn't done in consultation with the House author, and really gets us to where we thought we wanted to be. The last 2 years, it'll require Department of Education. On the I-STEP's going to be. We hope this would be the last year for I-STEP, but since we had tasked the Department of Education to come up with a replacement during their interim last year, they didn't do it. They came back with some vague recommendations that didn't really didn't get the ball moved at all. So as we move through this year, it will require that they use, an off-the-shelf product, for I-STEP. It's going to be called iRead, I think, or iLearn.
Okay.
And it'll be tested one time, not 2 times during the school year. It'll be at the end of the school year, roughly the May time frame, for all grades. And then the high school I-STEP will be replaced with either the SAT or ACT. And about 75% of our students already take, one of those. This will just require all of them, to take it. And they'll come up with a different. Colleges maybe have different test scores they want for different colleges you apply to get in. We'll come up with a bench line, of what a passing score is for graduation just off the ACT and SAT tests. So, and then we'll do that at no cost to the students. Currently, everybody that takes it has to go on a Saturday, pay their $75, and It'll be just done as part of a school day and be done at no cost to the kids.
Save
them
people's
money,
yeah.
save the state money. So that is moving along nicely. We'll get that through the Senate next week, and unfortunately we'll have one more year of I-STEP since we didn't, since DOE didn't get anything done with it over the summer. But so we were hoping 17 would be it. So we'll have to do I-STEP one more year, and then the year after it'll be bye-bye to I-STEP. So good news for everybody.
Sounds like you were busy this week, and you're going to be busy again next week.
Yeah, next week, Thursday will be the final day we work on House bills in the Senate and Senate bills in the House. And then the last 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks, whatever, we're planning on finish up on the 21st of April, will be conference committee time. And that's where things can get interesting. People who had a bill just pass one House or the Senate, then they'll start looking for homes to put in legislation that they didn't get moved. And it usually doesn't work, but they try.
Okay. Well, Senator, thank you very much for coming in and updating us on what happened this week.
You're welcome.
Our guest has been State Senator Mark Messmer. Thank you for watching WJTS. We are local people watching local people.